Well, the #2 al-Qaeda leader has been declared killed by a drone strike on the Pakistani border. According to government officials, under Obama's CIA drone strikes, they've killed 15 of the most important players in al-Qaeda, while Bush has toppled 16 top leaders in the organization. Problem is, the threat of al-Qaeda seems to be ever expanding. After 9/11, they were primarily based in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Sudan, which has led to drone strikes in those regions. In recent years, al-Qaeda's influence has reportedly sprung up more in Yemen and Somalia, which has led to more drone strikes there, and Mali may be next on the list. So with all these important leaders of al-Qaeda being taken out, are the drone strikes doing their job of eliminating dangerous terrorists? And as a result, is America safer because of them? Scott Horton, contributing editor for Harper's Magazine, joined me earlier today. I first asked him if these drone strikes have killed one terrorist to have another one just pop up in its place.
Well, I think in part it's because of their organizational structure. Of course, you take out the #3, and the new person is going to become #3. So you have something of a whack-a-mole game here. But I think in the past there's been some skepticism about people described as being senior figures. But I would say that's not the case with al-Libi, the person who was taken out today. I mean, he has been the subject of extensive profiles in the media, a special article in the New York Times, for instance, and he's been profiled by a number of other people, Peter Bergen at CNN. He's the real McCoy. He clearly is a senior leadership figure. And I think the essence of the Washington Post story is correct. That is, there's just no doubt that in the last 3 years, there has been a dramatic ramping up of the attack going after senior al-Qaeda leaders. And in fact, this organization has been reduced to a pale shadow of what it once was. Now, that raises the question that you also mentioned of al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, Somalia, and other places. And I'll just say that I and many other people who've studied them are much more skeptical about those organizations, their capacity for threat, and even their linkage to the original al-Qaeda organization. I mean, one phenomenon that's going on here is that we have an intelligence operation right now in which we have 10 American operatives or analysts for every one al-Qaeda member, at least, maybe more than that. And we've got a lot of people trying to preserve their jobs by establishing and taunting the risk threat here. And I think when we look at some of these threats coming out of Africa, that's definitely the case.
So do you think that the threat is, I was just going to ask, do you think the threat's completely overblown at this point? I mean, the U.S. government makes al-Qaeda out to be this tentacle-like organization with sleeper cells all in America and spreading all across the Middle East. Would you say that that's completely overblown?
I would say that you have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. So if we're looking at Yemen, yes, there definitely is something in Yemen. And let's not forget, Osama bin Laden himself was Yemeni. I mean, this, in a sense, was part of a core part of the organization. There, the allegations are more serious, but they're still probably overblown in terms of the threat risk. And a lot of people there who are identified as being part of the al-Qaeda threat, in fact, are just different tribal groups who are in opposition to the Saleh dictatorship in Yemen. But now let's contrast that with Mali. I mean, I've spent quite a bit of time studying and evaluating the situation in Mali, and my view is that claims of al-Qaeda involvement there are vastly overblown. We're looking at a Tuareg uprising that has some extremist Islamist elements. Well, there have been extremist Islamist elements there forever. There's nothing new about that, and nothing that presents a particular risk tied to al-Qaeda. Scott,
you said yourself that some of these people aren't even affiliated with al-Qaeda. They might just be extremists in other organizations. And it seems like when the government touts, that someone's a member of al-Qaeda, it's really just, they're dead, and it's really, there's no due process for these people to see really if they were complicit in the crimes that we've set out when we assassinate them. I wanted to ask you, though, why do you think it is that al-Qaeda wasn't even referred to as an organization before 9/11? It was just a tactic.
Well, I think before 9/11, we had a handful of people in the United States and the FBI and the CIA who were focused on al-Qaeda, who were tracking it, who were trying to deal with it and identified it as a serious threat. It didn't get that sort of higher level political attention, not even after the USS Cole attack. That only came after 9/11. So I think in part that's sort of a domestic political situation.
It was literally never even referred to, though. It was literally never referred to in the FBI as a group. But Scott, I wanted to ask you really quickly, every time there's a new al-Qaeda leader taken out, it seems like there's a Pentagon official right there in the mainstream press saying this is exactly why we need these drone wars. Do you think that they're just touting these just to continue to justify Obama's drone wars?
Well, I think there's a problem. I mean, look, we really have a question of balancing tactics versus strategies here. And I think when you look at what's going on, particularly in Pakistan and Yemen, it seems like a lot of strategies, a lot of tactics in search of a strategy. We still don't have a strategy because drones are a good tactical device. They can be used effectively to deal with terrorists in isolated conditions, certainly in conditions like you have in Pakistan and Yemen, but the broader strategic concern has to be not just eliminating them, but also eliminating the breeding grounds, so to speak, their ability to recruit, and also the risk of deterioration in relations between the U.S. and the governments involved. I mean, particularly, we've seen a meltdown in U.S. relations with Pakistan over the last couple of years. It's very dangerous.
And Panetta just came out today and said that we're actually at war officially with Pakistan. And people have told reporters there, people on the ground have said, you consider al-Qaeda terrorists, we consider drones terrorism. I mean, you're saying that drones can be used in a good way, but I mean, do you think that it's really helping the war on terror to fight terror with terror?
No, look, if the use of drones in the northwest frontier area of Pakistan results in open war with Pakistan, which is a nuclear power with the largest growing nuclear arsenal in the world, then the use of drones has not been successful, even if it's taking out al-Qaeda. It's produced a new and bigger problem. And that, I think, is what we need to focus on. This is, for instance, what Admiral Blair, former national security advisor in the White House, has been saying for some time.
And Scott, what do you think the threat really is? I mean, in America, Americans are more likely to be killed by a lightning strike or accidentally suffocating in bed than actually die of a terrorist attack. I mean, do you think this is completely overblown? Should we even be focusing on this loose affiliated group in the Middle East as a threat to our nation?
Frankly, yes. If you look at the quadrennial defense report that's in preparation now, you look at the tactical analyses that are coming out of the CIA, it's clear that notwithstanding this political rhetoric, our own intelligence community and our own defense community no longer view this Islamic terrorist threat as the principal security risk to the United States. They're looking elsewhere, and in fact, you'll find al-Qaeda slipping off the list of the top 5 threats. So it's captured the attention of the American media and American politicians, but the people who are really serious about the subject no longer view it as a prime concern.
Very interesting. Thanks so much for joining us, Scott. That was Scott Horton, contributing editor for Harper's Magazine.